The Earth was no longer blue. From the window of the shuttle, the planet looked bruised, patches of gray and sickly yellow swirling beneath a veil of smoke and storm. A thick, unnatural fog had begun spreading across the surface, slow and deliberate, as if the atmosphere itself had decided to die. Gavin sat stiffly in the co-pilot's seat, his knuckles white as he gripped the armrest. His eyes flicked between the planet below and the readings on the console, then to Hannah, who was stone-faced as she guided the shuttle. She wore her uniform like armor, her dark hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. He didn't trust her. He didn't trust Nebra. But trust didn't matter anymore. Earth was done. This shuttle and the station it approached might be the only thing left standing. Approaching Rubicon, we're at coordinates 91 by 24, confirmed by Navicon, Hannah said, tapping the interface. Her voice was clipped, professional, but the reply from the station's comms channel came with tension. "That's not what we're seeing," said Philip, one of Rubicon's lead researchers. "You're much closer than you think. Navicon's off. Manual control advised." Hannah swore under her breath, took hold of the joystick, and powered off the autopilot. Gavin's stomach dropped as the shuttle jolted under her command, its nose swinging wide. Rubicon loomed ahead like a cold, skeletal finger pointing into the void, rotating gently with the Earth beneath it. "She's overshooting," came another voice. Tracy, another scientist on board. "No, I've got it," Hannah said through gritted teeth. The shuttle's thrusters flared, and with a grinding groan they slammed into the docking locks harder than protocol would like. But they held. The airlock cycled. The doors slid open. Inside stood Philip and Tracy, both pale and jittery from isolation, their expressions a mix of relief and exhaustion. The corridors behind them were dimly lit, bathed in the soft green glow of the algae that coated sections of the walls like underwater moss. Hannah's eyes lingered on it. So did her thoughts. Gavin stepped in quietly behind her, wheeling his case of instruments, eyes flicking everywhere like a trapped animal trying to memorize every exit. "You made it," Philip said. "Barely." "We came as fast as we could," Gavin said. He didn't smile. Philip gave them a brief tour, living quarters, labs, comms. The algae was everywhere, pulsing faintly in the recycled air, thick in corners, running in seams behind transparent panels. "Dimitri's work," Tracy said. "You'll meet him soon. Genius or lunatic. Depends who you ask." Later that night, after a brief unpacking and awkward small talk, the crew gathered in the central module for a shared drink. Gavin barely touched his. He still hadn't adjusted to the floating sensation, and his nerves were shot. Dr. Dimitri arrived last. A wiry man with a beard that didn't quite know what to do, he eyed Gavin immediately. "So you're the son of a dome rat," he said, not bothering to hide the disdain. "I'm a scientist," Gavin replied flatly. "Not my father." Dimitri only scoffed, then turned his attention to Hannah. She didn't say much, just watched. Hannah excused herself and stepped away, pulling out her comm tablet. She called Earth. Her sister Knopf's face appeared on screen, tired, dusty, but alive, a soldier posted at one of the evacuation zones. Knopf was coordinating final extractions to the last oxygen bunkers. "You holding up?" Hannah asked. Knopf nodded. "Barely. They say we'll be safe underground if they let us in." The line went dead a moment later. Back in the central module, the comms console lit up. Philip stood quickly, reading an incoming message through the laser communication system. "A fog," he said, eyes wide. "A new kind of fog. People are dying. No response from New Dakar. Nothing from Shanghai. It's moving fast." Gavin rushed to the analyzer unit, but the device blinked red. Offline. "What the hell is going on down there?" he muttered. No one answered. The next morning, a transport shuttle prepped to return half the Rubicon team to Earth. There was still hope, thin, desperate hope, that the bunkers could hold. Philip, Tracy, and a few others suited up. Hannah, Gavin, and Dimitri stayed. Just before launch, Hannah walked to the algae lab. She opened a maintenance panel. Hidden beneath layers of cabling was a switch labeled Icarus. She stared at it, looking for something. She snapped the panel shut. Dimitri stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Just admiring the algae," she said with a calm smile. He didn't believe her. An hour later, the station's laser comm crackled with urgency. A message from Philip's shuttle. "We're blind," he said. "No contact with ground. Fogs everywhere. Trying re-entry." Hannah tried to reach ground control. Nothing. She suited up, moved outside the station to check the hardware. That's when she heard it. Screaming. Philip's voice, broken and frantic, burst through the comms. "We're burning. We're burning up. We can't slow down." Then silence. Hannah turned slowly in the vacuum of space. Below her, Earth had changed. A vast brown cloud now encased most of the planet. It churned slowly, thick like sludge in motion. She returned inside. Tried every frequency. Nothing. Only one final message came through, from Knopf. "We're being told to fall back," her sister said, voice shaky. "They're evacuating those with clearance. We're not—" The transmission ended. For the next 2 days, Hannah monitored the laser comm. No signals. The fog had blocked even light. Dimitri locked himself in his quarters. Gavin kept trying to repair the analyzer. No one spoke unless they had to. The world had ended, and 3 ghosts floated in orbit, trying to understand what it meant to keep breathing. Silence became a 4th passenger on Rubicon. In the absence of Earth's noise, the static of ground control, the chatter of dome command, the pulse of cities, the space station seemed to stretch into an infinite, empty corridor. The fog that now shrouded the Earth below was more than a weather event. It was a burial cloth, a toxic haze thick enough to choke even light. Laser communications failed. No return messages, no pingbacks, nothing. Gavin stared at the atmosphere analyzer. Still dark. No readings, no data. Just a dead screen and a vague hum. He hadn't said more than a few words in hours. In the algae lab, the green shimmer of Dimitri's system pulsed in rhythmic calm. The algae lived. It breathed. It didn't know the planet that birthed it was already a grave. Hannah spent her hours restlessly moving through the ship, trying every channel, recalibrating sensors, inspecting the outer comm dish manually for damage, even though she already knew the problem was bigger than wiring. The fog was absorbing laser frequencies. Earth had gone dark. Dmitri, when he emerged from his quarters, looked hollowed out. He walked slower now, carried less weight in his shoulders. When Hannah tried to speak to him, he turned away without a word. His son's final screams echoed in every silence between them. Days bled together, one cycle into the next. Then, in the middle of another sleepless night, the analyzer lit up. Gavin had been dozing in the lab chair, chin resting on his chest, when the gentle beeping stirred him awake. At first, he thought it was another glitch. Then he saw the results. Real-time samples, atmospheric readings, chemical breakdowns, molecular content. And then he stopped breathing. He stumbled through the corridor, past the algae wall, into the airlock. He pressed the depressurization protocol without hesitation. The station shuddered. Lights turned red. Inside the control hub, Hannah saw it first, a silent alert from the airlock. Manual override. Air releasing. She bolted. Dmitri saw her run and followed. On the small display, Gavin writhed, his face contorted. He clutched at his throat. The airlock's depressurization had only just completed. They couldn't open the door yet. Come on, come on. Hannah slammed her palm against the control panel. The instant it was safe, they hit repressurization and pulled the emergency override. The door hissed open. Gavin collapsed into Hannah's arms. CPR, mouth to mouth. Nothing. Then, a breath. Dmitri carried him back to medical and stayed beside him as the monitor stabilized. Hannah slumped against the wall, shaking. She didn't speak. Neither did Dmitri. They just listened to Gavin breathe. When Gavin woke up hours later, he said only two things. "I'm sorry," and "it's all gone." The data from the analyzer confirmed it. The fog wasn't natural. It was a synthetic aerosol, airborne, hyperdense, lethal within seconds. A catastrophic chain reaction born of centuries of pollution and unchecked industrial waste. The fog had fused with emissions from power plants and cooling systems, turning into a global poison cloud. No dome could filter it. No bunker could withstand it for long. Gavin's voice cracked as he said it. "Everyone's dead." The panic attack came next. Hyperventilation, vision tunneling. Dmitri administered a sedative and put him to bed. They wired a proximity alarm to his bunk in case he tried anything again. Later, Dmitri stood at the viewing window with Hannah. "Did you have anyone down there?" he asked. "My sister, Knopf," Hannah replied. "She was a soldier, helping evacuate people to the bunkers. But it doesn't matter now. You think we'll die up here too? We're running out of time," she said. "Air, food, everything. It's just slow." Dmitri looked away. "That's not entirely true," he said quietly. "The algae system, it works fully. It can replenish oxygen indefinitely. We're not going to die, not if we stay here." Hannah stared at him. "Then why hide it from NIBRA?" "Because they'd use it to keep their rich clients breathing in the domes while the rest of humanity suffocated. Danilo and I," he trailed off. "He didn't want that." That night, Hannah pulled out the old radio wave communicator, a backup system built for short-range signals. It was primitive, not affected by the fog's light-absorbing properties, but too weak to reach much further than a few hundred kilometers. She worked through the night while Dmitri helped solder and realign the antenna grid. When they finally powered it on, the static was deafening. But there was no voice on the other end, no echo, just the sound of everything they had lost. The next morning, Gavin sat upright in his bunk, awake. His eyes were clearer than they had been in days. "What is it?" Hannah asked. He took a long breath before answering. "That fog. There's no fixing it. The damage isn't just surface level, it's molecular. The aerosols are in every layer of the atmosphere. That's it. Game over." She tried to speak, but he cut her off. "Even the domes. If they're still standing, they'll fail. The filters were never made for this. We didn't stop it in time." "So what?" Hannah said bitterly. "We just float here, watch the planet rot." Dmitri entered, heard the end of the conversation, and said nothing for a moment. Finally, he said, "You can live. Up here. We all can. The algae system only needs 3 people to balance itself. You, me, Gavin. We keep the loop running. If one of us goes, the balance collapses." Gavin narrowed his eyes. 3 people, exactly. It's designed that way. The oxygen regeneration curve hits critical thresholds with fewer than 3 breathers. That's why I tried to keep you alive. No one said what they were all thinking. Gavin had become essential. His death now would kill them all. Later that day, as the tension eased just slightly, Gavin and Hannah sat together in the observatory, watching the Earth roll in its quiet shroud of death. "You know what kills me," Gavin said. "All the marches, the speeches, the petitions, my whole life trying to change things, and none of it mattered." "You didn't waste your life," Hannah said. "Didn't I? I should have traveled, surfed, learned to cook. I should have fallen in love." "You kind of did," she said, looking at him. They didn't speak again. Their mouths did other things. That night, they found something to cling to in each other's skin. Weeks passed. They adjusted. Meals were rationed. Schedules rotated. They found a strange rhythm. Then, one morning, Hannah saw the algae. Brown. The tips of the wall cultures were losing color. She brought it to Dmitri's attention. He brushed it off. Could be nutrient imbalances, nothing critical. But in secret, he ran tests, and what he found changed everything. The algae was nutrient-fed through their waste systems, mostly urine. But now something was different. A hormonal shift, one consistent with pregnancy. Dmitri said nothing. Not yet. Instead, that night they all got drunk on emergency ethanol supplies and sat playing cards in a half-lit galley. The Earth spun on, silent, unmoving, and above it, in Rubicon, the last flicker of human life floated, suspended in time. It started with a voice, a soft, uncertain one, breaking through the static on the old radio communicator like a memory whispering back from the grave. "Hello? Is anyone out there?" Hannah froze. She'd been cleaning Knopf's drawings off the workstation walls, little stick figures floating beside green blobs meant to be algae farms. a child's way of claiming space in a world that hadn't been hers to begin with. But the voice, young, alive, cut through the silence Rubicon had worn like armor for years. She rushed to the communicator, twisting the dial carefully. "I hear you," she said, voice trembling. "This is Rubicon Station. Who is this?" My name's Mina. We're in a bunker outside of Cape Town. My parents said there might be survivors in orbit. We've been trying to reach someone for weeks." A dozen more voices echoed faintly behind her, some children, some adults. Canop ran in barefoot, curious. Dimitri followed close behind, carrying a toolkit but already knowing from the look on Hannah's face. Something had changed. The fog was thinning. The atmosphere was clearing. Hannah could barely speak. Her mouth was dry, her hands trembling. "How many of you are there?" 300, Mina said. "We have about 5 days of oxygen left." 5 days. The algae lab, Project Icarus, could sustain hundreds. It had been designed to save whoever received it. But it was never launched, because Hannah destroyed it. The investors in that bunker, the CEOs, had known the fog was coming. They'd sealed themselves in and left soldiers, medics, and civilians to die outside, including Knopf, her sister, her blood. They'd told her Knopf wasn't let into the bunkers, that she was one of the many who pounded on steel doors as the rich pulled the hatch shut. Hannah clenched her jaw. She knew what they'd done. Now, those same people, those architects of the apocalypse, were begging for the thing they tried to steal. Dimitri approached slowly. "It's your call," he said, "but you already made it once." Gavin's name sat in the air, unspoken but undeniable. She remembered his body in the airlock, pale, still. A second attempt he'd made, but this time there was no saving him. His death had left a scar in the oxygen loop, in the algae culture, in the story they had tried to build. She buried him in space, wrapped in white fabric. Dimitri said a few words. Canop watched from behind Hannah's leg, too young to understand death, but old enough to understand missing someone. Back in the present, the calm crackled again. "Are you still there? Please, we have children. We just want to live." Dimitri stepped forward. "Hannah, think about this. Think about Canop. Do you want to raise her on that world?" But Hannah was already moving into the algae lab. What was left of Icarus had been scavenged for other systems, but she hadn't destroyed the tank modules, just the mainframe. She stopped in front of it and pressed her hand against the glass. The algae was green again, vibrant, fed by her, by Dimitri, by Canop. She turned to him. How long would it take to make the launch capsule viable? "Hours," he said, "but you can't ride it. It has no controls, no shielding, no deceleration. You're sending the algae, not yourself." "I wasn't planning to," she said, but then she paused, looked around the station, at the walls Canop had drawn on, at the corridors that smelled faintly of mold and iron, at the ghost of Gavin that still lived in every corner. "Maybe we've waited too long up here." They worked in shifts, loaded the algae system into a new capsule, stripped down to its essential systems. Hannah ran diagnostics while Canop handed her tools with mismatched names. A day later, it was ready. They opened the comm again, spoke to the bunker. The children listened. Their voices were quieter now, thinner, like air was already beginning to slip from the room. "I'm sending something," Hannah told them. "But it's not just air. It's a responsibility. If you survive, you do better than the people before you." They swore they would. Before launch, Dmitri pulled her aside. "I never told you this," he said. "That 3-breather thing, I made it up. I just didn't want Gavin to die. I thought if he believed he was keeping us alive, he'd stop trying to leave us." Hannah didn't respond. She only nodded, and for a moment Dmitri saw in her the same stillness Gavin had in his last days, a kind of acceptance that went beyond despair. That night they launched Icarus. The capsule blinked like a distant star as it fell toward Earth. They didn't watch it land. They didn't wait for a reply. Instead, they returned to the observation deck, where Canop curled up between them and pointed out the shapes she imagined in the Earth's clearing cloud cover. "Do you think they'll make it?" she asked. "I don't know," Hannah whispered. A year passed, then 2. Canop grew taller, smarter. She asked harder questions. She built radios from scrap and learned the difference between silence and static. She learned how to filter air, how to feed algae, how to live like life still mattered. Then one morning, she turned on a radio and heard laughing. Children. On the ground. Alive. "We're looking for other survivors," one said. "We're trying to rebuild. Is anyone else out there?" Canop screamed for her mother. Hannah came running. Dmitri followed, out of breath. They listened to the voices, crackling with life, with a future. Hannah bent down beside her daughter, wrapped an arm around her. "This is Rubicon Station," she said. "We hear you." And Earth, at long last, heard her back.